Welcome back to ThimbleberryU. I'm John J. Gay with Amy Wallace of Thimbleberry Financial. Amy, today we're talking about understanding portfolio risks.
Yes.
One of the biggest risks is a highly concentrated portfolio. What does that term even mean before we start?
So a highly concentrated portfolio is one where a single asset or a small group of assets makes up 10% or more of the portfolio's total value.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lack of diversification, and that lack of diversification can significantly increase risk because the portfolio's performance is now heavily dependent on those few investments. And so what that means is if those investments perform poorly, the entire portfolio can suffer significantly.
Okay, let's dig in a little bit deeper. It's risky, it's dangerous. What are some specific reasons as to why a highly concentrated portfolio can be so risky?
Yeah, there's several reasons. First, increased volatility. Volatility is ups and downs. We worry more about downs than ups. But with fewer assets, that portfolio is more susceptible to big swings in value based on performance of those assets, right? Because if you've got one holding that's 25% of a portfolio, if it swings up, great, the portfolio goes up a lot. If it swings down a lot, that portfolio value is going to go down because it makes up so much of the portfolio. Now, let's say that this is all in one company. It's a concentrated risk. So any negative news about that company, any performance issues with that company can severely impact the portfolio. And that can be amplified if there's industry challenges, right? It's not just company specific, but maybe it's a single tech company. And right now, tech is struggling. So now we've got an industry-specific challenge, and that could be coupled with a company-specific challenge, too.
We hit on that a lot during our 6-part series on tech professionals, for sure.
Yep. It could be regulatory changes. What if this company gets hit with a lawsuit around being a monopoly? Or it just simple management issues. Those come up.
Yep, for sure.
Right? General lack of diversification is another. Diversification spreads risk around different assets, and it reduces the impact of any single investment's poor performance. It mitigates risk. And so without that diversification, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and that can be dangerous. And then lastly, it's not a numbers situation, but it's emotional stress.
Sure.
It's the psychological piece. Significant fluctuations lead to stress, and they can also contribute to impulsive decision-making, right? We've talked about decision fatigue. Stress is part of that. We make bad decisions we can make bad decisions when under that kind of stress. So if you're an investor feeling that stress, you might be compelled to make a hasty and potentially bad decision during a downturn, which might result in selling when something's low and buying when something's high, and thus negatively impacting your long-term returns.
The opposite of buy low and sell high,
Yes.
Absolutely. And I know behavioral finance is a big thing for you. And another big thing that we've talked about on the podcast all the time is that every individual situation is different. So if someone has a highly concentrated portfolio, what basic questions should they ask to assess if they're okay with the risk they're taking?
Some of these questions, as I throw them out, may kind of sound similar, but to different people, they're going to mean different things. One, if I lost this money, am I okay?
Sure.
Am I okay financially? Am I okay emotionally?
Yep.
So really, can I afford to lose a significant portion or even all of the money that I have invested without jeopardizing my security? How would a significant loss impact my lifestyle? That's important because if you're going to be uncomfortable, this might not be the right choice.
Yep.
Do I have enough diversification in my overall financial portfolio? Meaning maybe I'm very diversified elsewhere, and so I'm willing to take on the risk of this one asset.
That makes sense.
But I've weighed the pros and cons there. What's my time horizon for needing this money?
Yeah.
Right? If I anticipate needing access to it, how is that going to play out? Do I have time to recover if it goes down? What am I going to do if it goes down and is down when I actually intended to use the money? Here's a nice one. How much stress am I willing to endure due to market fluctuations?
Different for everybody.
Absolutely. I like this one too. Do I have a clear understanding of the investment and its risks? Now, I think everybody is normally going to say yes before they go into an investment. Of course, I understand it.
Yeah.
But if we step away from investments, I can't tell you how many times I'll be talking to someone about something. Maybe it's sales, maybe it's new software I'm considering. I dig into it, I ask questions, and then I say, okay, so here's my recap. I understand. Is there anything else I need to know? The answer is nope, you got it. And then down the road, I find out there's some other big piece that I didn't know about. So do I truly understand it and know about it?
Speaks to the importance of working with a financial professional, for sure.
Absolutely. How does this investment align with my long-term financial goals? What's my exit strategy if this doesn't go the way I want it to?
Plan B, yep, or C, D, and E if you need it.
Mm-hmm. Am I receiving professional advice on this, and what does that professional say, and why?
That's so important.
Are there any tax implications I need to consider?
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, I'll say, how does this investment and my willingness to do it or not do it affect my ability to sleep at night?
We're kind of veering into that area of behavioral finance that we've talked about so many times before in the podcast. Related to that specifically, what are some behavioral questions our listeners should consider in this situation?
Yeah, in your last question, I probably hit on a couple of them, like how do I react to market volatility types of things. But I think there's a couple that could be new. One, do I tend to be overconfident in my investment decisions?
Yeah, bias.
Yep. What biases do I have? I think looking at that, anchoring bias, confirmation bias, status quo bias, recency bias. Those are all biases that could play a role. Do I have a tendency to hold on to losing investments?
Yeah.
Sometimes people do that just to not be wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Do I have a need to be right? And so I'm going to hold on to something no matter what.
And go down with the ship.
Yep. How much does herd behavior influence my investment choices? This is one I hear a lot, especially when people are in the office. Hey, we were standing around the water cooler getting coffee, and my friend was talking to me about X, Y, and Z investment, and everybody else was on board with it. Why am I not in it?
And that's to say nothing of the meme stocks, which is a whole other topic.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. This one I think is important. I am a big fan of simplification, but how do I handle complexity in decision making?
Yeah.
Because if complexity throws you for a loop, causes you to freeze, getting heavily concentrated or staying heavily concentrated just increase complexity.
Fair enough.
Lastly, how do personal experiences influence my behavior? So I think I want to expand on this one a little bit. We have things in our past that influence our future.
Yep.
Things we do now, I'll jump away from this for a second, but one of the things I regularly talk to clients about is if they're looking to make an investment, let's say in a brokerage account, they've got extra money sitting around. Do they want to do it as a lump sum or do they want a dollar cost average, meaning like invest each month for a period of time?
Sure.
People's behavior comes into play when I make a recommendation around that. Long-term, lump sum investing tends to win. Statistically, it does. But for certain people, if they do that and the market drops the next day, it will keep them from investing and doing the right thing in the future.
Yeah.
So we have to pay attention to that.
A lot of introspection needed as we've been going through today, Amy. And so once you've kind of taken these mental checks, what steps can someone take if they decide that their highly concentrated portfolio is too risky for their comfort level?
Well, it could be immediate or gradual diversification.
Yep.
Right? Same thing as that lump sum versus dollar cost averaging we just talked about. How do you make that move? Using tax advantaged accounts just to minimize tax impacts if possible. Maybe you're considering being heavily concentrated. Where do you want to do that? Might be the question. Exchange funds. This would allow you to pool your concentrated stock with other investors to create a more diversified portfolio without immediately triggering capital gains.
Okay, good to know.
There's hedging strategies. So I won't go into details there. Making charitable donations.
Okay.
Maybe if you're heavily concentrated, you're charitably inclined, maybe giving some of that stock away to charity is the perfect answer. And overall, with all of these strategies, getting guidance from a professional, not from your friends.
Yes.
Around the water cooler or the coffee pot.
Or the group chat, to make a modern reference as well.
Or Reddit.
Oh, gosh, no, let's not even go there. All these really are excellent strategies, Amy. Before we wrap up, anything else you want to add to tie this all together?
These were all ideas, but I think it's important to remember that it's important to regularly review your portfolio and assess your risk tolerance, not the other people around you's risk tolerance. And that it's okay that your risk tolerance changes over time. One stage in life, it can be one thing, and at a later stage, it can be something else. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it goes from high to low. It could go from low to high based on different factors. So staying flexible, staying open-minded and informed is really important.
So to sum it up, you don't want to be overly concentrated in your portfolio, but what overly concentrated means different things to different people, depending on their risk tolerance and so many other factors. Every individual situation is different, as we say almost every time on the podcast, Amy. If someone wants to come talk to you and the team at Thimbleberry about their individual situation, how do they best find you?
They can find us online at thimbleberryfinancial.com or give us a call at 503-610-6510.
Great stuff, Amy. We'll talk again in a couple weeks.
Sounds great.
Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated.